Beautiful South on BBC Essex, and Don't Marry Her. It's 13 minutes past 3. Now, a very special and unique piece of theatre is coming to Essex. In fact, Colchester, the Arts Centre, and it's coming very soon. And I'm very pleased to say that I've got the man. Well, he's doing virtually everything. On stage, behind the scenes, he's written it. He's done everything. He's done everything. And he's with me now to tell us about something called Is it Herakles? I think it's called Herakles.
Yeah, that's the one.
Welcome, Neil Luck. Good to talk to you, Neil.
Oh, it's fantastic to be here. Thanks for having me.
First of all, I ought to ask you about the inspiration. I mean, what's behind Herakles?
Well, if you don't mind, can I use this? It's a... I'm going to be talking about a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with the piece, and it's a lot to do with the myth of Hercules and Herculean efforts that we do in everyday life. And in fact, the one Herculean effort I was doing when I wrote the piece was I was giving up smoking. I was a chain smoker for a long time, and I saw a television advert a few years ago where they were lampooning smoking with party blowers. So I thought I'd take up smoking a party blower.
So that's why you brought that in.
Which I do, and I used to chain smoke when I was nervous as well. I'm actually very nervous to be interviewed.
Oh, right, so that's going to happen every 5 seconds, is it?
Well, you see, being a musician, I thought there's got to be a way to musicalise my giving up smoking, and I thought why not do this? And it also it makes me look ridiculous. It makes smoking look ridiculous, but I also find it does help me in stressful situations.
I would just love to see that on in a busy situation where lots of smokers or ex-smokers are doing what you do. Yeah. It'd be deafening, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. But I don't know. It'd musicalise the whole city. You could have people running through Charing Cross and everywhere in London just blowing party blowers. It'd be hilarious.
It would be absolutely hilarious. He's getting more nervous, as you can tell. Yeah. He's dragging on that party blower constantly. So is this a play about giving up smoking then?
Well, not in the sense. Really, it's autobiographical. I'm a composer and a performer, and I noticed from when I studied a lot of opera, which essentially it's a sort of modern opera. I found that really, when you read into a lot of the old operas, the composers are just really talking about themselves, but using metaphor. And so I sort of saw myself as a kind of Hercules, not in my build. Obviously, if people could see me, they'd notice that I wasn't very
quite slight. It's quite slight.
But in other ways, I feel like I had a Herculean struggle with giving up smoking. I had a Herculean struggle with coming to terms with being a avant-garde composer, because really the inspiration came from the Disney film Hercules. And I don't know if you've seen the Disney film, Steve, but it's the main songs in it talk about just really finding your true self. And I found that when I was a kid, I wrote a lot of experimental music pieces, and they were just never accepted, and my parents didn't understand me. So they sort of said, well, if you want to be a musician, you've got to play the guitar and be in a pop group. And so I went to the University of Surrey in the end to sort of learn my trade. But really, I always wanted to create this kind of very experimental avant-garde music that I'd fallen in love with as a child, stuff from the 60s and the 50s. And really, I was finding my true self, and that's kind of what the piece is about, really.
You've mentioned opera. Have a drag. Thank you. But you say it's a new piece of music. I'm reading this now.
Yes, of course.
A new piece of music theatre, drawing on eclectic ranges of influences from contemporary classical music, concrete poetry, slapstick comedy, free improvisation. Yeah. Kabuki theatre.
Well, you see, the kabuki theatre part is it's a very interesting story as to how that got into the piece, because when I was working on the piece with Adam Delacour, he's a professional clown, but he's also one of my close collaborators.
Right.
And he studied for a time in the Netherlands, and while he was there, he was interested in a type of theatre called Konka Japanese theatre, which was actually brought over from Japan in the 17th and 18th century, because Japan and Holland had a very close relationship because of the port at Nagasaki, and so the Dutch culture was the first European culture that Japanese people became aware of. Yeah, I'll take a drag. I'm talking very fast. But we found it was very interesting, because the movement in this Konka Japanese theatre and also that a kabuki theatre are very, very similar to what we see in figure skating. And me and Adam were very interested in how Hercules, the Disney film, had been transferred to Disney on Ice. We'd gone up to Sheffield to see the Disney on Ice at the Sheffield Arena, and we'd been completely blown away and thought, we need to involve this somehow in the piece. So we researched the Dutch tradition, then the Japanese tradition, and then we tried to, kind of shoehorn in some ice skating, but obviously the problem is, especially Colchester, our centre doesn't have an ice rink, and so we were unable to kind of transfer the ice skating. Well, that might be the case. We've really rewritten it since we last performed it at King's Place, so you never know. There might be some roller skating, but the essential movements become part of the piece. I mean, it really is. It's chock full of lots of different things. It's just a feast for the eyes and ears.
At the moment, Neil, I feel as though I'm in the middle of a Monty Python sketch.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
especially with you drawing breath on that.
Well, I mean, the piece is very absurd, because I feel like contemporary music is very absurd. I feel like my life story could be a little bit absurd, and it's weird trying to find your place in contemporary music, which has so many. It's very multifaceted, and there's so many different aspects to it that are incredibly interesting, that I just feel like trying to put it down into one piece probably wasn't enough, but this is what we try to do in this piece.
We are both going to draw breath,
yes.
Okay, because I have to make way for some travel news.
Oh, that's okay.
And then I'm going to come back and ask you a very simple question, okay?
Yeah.
So stand by for that in a moment.
Shall do.
Yeah.
BBC Essex. This year, BBC Essex is celebrating your local producers with the BBC Food and Farming Awards. What is your favourite food market? What makes them so special? Which food market do you think deserves to represent Essex at this year's ceremony? You can nominate yours now. Log on to bbc.co.uk/food awards. BBC Essex.
3:20.
BBC Essex Travel.
Back to Herakles in just a moment, after James Morley has the latest on the roads and rails.
Thanks, Steve. And busy out of Southend, slow moving out towards Netsuda Way. The Tesco roundabout is because of the roadworks. The left lane is shut for those works. We can see on the cameras, the Essex traffic control cameras, and speed sensors show quite a long queue actually out of Southend. Not too bad at all on the A12 and the A13 though. Still problems at Bickenacre. Hyde Lane is closed off from Slough Road to the A414 after a serious accident earlier on this morning, and this afternoon should I say. And motorways, well, they're fine on camera. On the trains, all back to normal through Kelvedon, and no reported problems for CTC this afternoon. Anything else on the roads though, call me on 0500 827 362 and I'll have more at about 10 to 4.
More online at bbc.co.uk/Essex.
BBC Essex Travel.
Thanks, James. With me in the studio, Neil Luck, who's still drawing on his party blower. It's like a cigarette. I ought to explain. It's yellow, piece of plastic. It's about the same size as a cigarette, and occasionally he takes a puff on it because he's attempting to give up smoking. Well, has given up smoking. Herakles is the name of the play, piece of new music theatre, and Neil is in it. He's written it. He's directing it. Mm-hmm. He's probably sweeping the stage as well at the end of it.
Well, you can never be too sure.
Now, the simple question, Neil, is, has it got a beginning, a middle and an end?
Well, I mean, the simplest answer probably would be that the end comes in the middle's probably at the end, and the beginning stays as it is, but it gets quite subverted. I mean, we have a little bit of a Greek chorus has been written in. We have an appearance from Santa Claus, because obviously you need Santa Claus in a play about mythology, and also there's some big show tunes. I mean, I mentioned there's the text of Richard Foreman also has inspired the piece. Now, Richard Foreman was my mentor at the University of Surrey. He's a fantastic guitar player, and we had a kind of relationship, a bit like if you've seen the Disney film that Hercules has with the character Phil, who's played by Danny DeVito, and mine and Richard's relationship was kind of similar to that. And so really, and in the film and in the myth, Phil trains Hercules to be a real hero, and I feel that Richard really trained me with my musical abilities. And so what I've tried to do is abstract that, but then when I researched more into what I was going to do, I found that there was a practitioner in America, also called Richard Foreman, who created the hysterical ontological theatre. And so I then started to think, well, well, maybe I should blur the two characters and include the two, but this guy Foreman in America is really crazy stuff. It's all about philosophy and creating a total art form in theatre. So it led the piece in a completely different direction.
Have another draw. How do you want to leave the audience by the end of the performance? Do you want to leave them happy, inquisitive, troubled?
Well, I think seeing it's an autobiographical piece and it's about contemporary avant-garde music and how I came to feel like that was where I truly belonged. I think I'd like the audience to think, where do they truly belong? And could avant-garde music be a place where they belong? And it's something to share with the audience, to say, you're welcome in this arena with this kind of music, or maybe it should just inspire you to think, where do you truly belong, and where would you like to be?
You mentioned opera right at the start of our
Yes,
conversation.
I did.
Have you got a good singing voice then?
No, not at all. It's absolutely terrible. But I do try, and that's really the difference between new music theatre and opera, because in opera you have to be an accomplished singer, whereas in new music theatre anything goes. So I can be the star of a new music theatre show, and it doesn't matter.
If you've understood any of that, Neil Luck is in his almost one-man show at the Arts Centre in Colchester. It's on Wednesday, the 21st of January. It's all ready to go, is it?
Yeah, it's already
and, fully rehearsed.
Yeah, and the audience can pay what they like. So I would offer you a free ticket, Steve, but you could turn up and essentially have a free ticket if you decide not to pay us anything, or you could feel that we deserve some money and maybe pay at the end.
I was going to say, are you going to ask people to pay before they go in, or make a donation before they go in, or when they come out?
Well, they can choose either way, but I don't. We're yet to decide with the Arts Centre whether they'll be giving refunds if people are that dissatisfied.
Neil, great to talk to you.
It's been
Very entertaining
fantastic.
young man.